To order. It is May 21st, 2025, and the time is 6:30 p.m. Our mission is to provide a safe and caring climate and culture in which we engage, inspire, educate, and empower all learners in partnership with their surrounding community to be successful in today's and tomorrow's society. Heather, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And then when you're ready, can you please call roll?
Scott Andresen.
Here.
Natalie Copeland.
Here.
Al Dahlgren.
Here.
Zach Dorholt. Here. Shannon Haas.
Here.
Heather Weems. Here. The following board members are not present. Diana Fenton. The following cabinet members and staff are present at the District Administration Office. Superintendent Dr. Lori Putnam, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education Dr. Jason Harris, Assistant Superintendent of E5 Learning Nikki Hansen, Assistant Superintendent of E12 Educational Services Shannon Avenson, Executive Director of Community Education Adam Holm, Executive Director of Finance and Business Services Amy Scalarud, Executive Director of Operations Joel Heitkamp, Executive Director of Special Projects Gary Ganji, Director of Community Engagement and Communications Tammy DeLand, Media Technicians Paul Novak and Gordy Scott, and the custodian on site is Austin Goodwater.
Thank you. Then next I need a motion to approve tonight's Board of Education meeting agenda.
So move.
I have a motion by Scott, a second by Natalie. Heather, can you call vote again?
Heather Weems, yes. Shannon Haas.
Yes.
Zach Dorholt.
Yes.
Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
Natalie Copeland.
Yes.
Scott Andresen.
Yes.
Thank you. Then we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of non-controversial items the board adopts routinely without debate. Any member may remove an item from the consent agenda by requesting removal at the time the consent agenda is moved for adoption. On tonight's consent agenda, item A, approval of minutes from April 16th, 2025. Item B, approval of bills and other financial transactions in the grand total amount of $5,450,278.56. Item C, approval of personnel staff changes. Item D, acceptance of grant awards and donations. Item E, South Long-Term Facilities Maintenance Improvements, change order totaling $70,537. Item F, North Long-Term Facilities Maintenance Improvements, change orders totaling $55,974.29. And last but certainly not least, item G, resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of the district's general obligation capital appreciation school buildings bonds, Minnesota School District Credit Enhancement Program, authorizing the negotiation for the sale of such bonds, covenanting and obligating the district to be bound by and use the provisions of Minnesota statutes, Section 126C.55 to guarantee the payment of the principal and interest on such bonds, and declaring the official intent of the district to reimburse certain expenditures from the proceeds of bonds to be issued by the district. At this time, does any member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Natalie.
If I could please remove item D.
Item D. Okay. Looking for a motion to approve A through G with the exception of item D.
So move.
I have a motion by Scott, a second by Natalie. Heather, can you call vote?
Zach Dorholt.
Yes.
Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
Shannon Haas.
Yes.
Natalie Copeland.
Yes.
Heather Weems, yes. Scott Andresen.
Yes.
And are you recusing yourself? Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to approve item D on the consent agenda.
So move. Second.
I have a motion by Scott, a second by Al. Heather, can you call vote without Natalie?
Scott Andresen.
Yes.
Zach Dorholt. Heather Weems, yes. Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
Shannon Haas.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to information, and the items and the most exciting up for tonight is the district retiree recognition. So welcome everyone for being here tonight. On behalf of the superintendent and Board of Education, I want to extend a special welcome to our 2025 district retirees. It was wonderful to be able to socialize with many of you prior to the meeting, and for those who could not attend this evening and may be watching on our live stream, just know that we celebrate you too. This year, we are recognizing 44 retirees throughout the district who in total have dedicated 882 years of combined service to St. Cloud area schools, which is so impressive, and for which we are incredibly grateful. We are thankful for your efforts to ensure our students were educated, fed, transported, cared for every single day. We know our students and our schools are better because of you. As board chair, I am honored to congratulate you on your well-deserved retirement and wish you the very best on your journey ahead. And now let's enjoy a blast from the past, a video highlighting our retirees' accomplishments. That made me feel a little bit old because I had hair like that and recognized every one of those pictures. So now a few remarks from our superintendent.
I am grateful for this chance to get to say thank you to those of you who are sitting here and to those of you who are at home. Some of you I have the opportunity to have known for many, many years, and some of you I have only gotten to know or greet as I am out in schools. And some of you, taught my kids, and every single one of you, no matter the years or the kinds of interactions we've had, have made a huge impact, not only on my life, my family's life, but also that of the folks who are sitting here, and the thousands and thousands of students and families whose lives you've touched. And I just want to say a deep appreciation. I sent out a reflection that I had done about public education a couple weeks ago because I was in a mood. That's how I say it, is I was in a mood, because there's often, and it seems increasingly lately, an inclination, a willingness to make education, public education, the punching bag of society's ills, right? Whatever is going wrong, people like to blame us. The Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court just blamed public education for the lack of separation of powers. I'm like, really? Like that's our fault too? Okay. And what I wish so desperately people could see are the folks like you, right? The people who have given so much, certainly between the hours of 7 and 3 or 8 and 5, or if you're working B shifts or weekends, right? Certainly during those times. But the countless things that you have done on the weekends, grading papers, finding something over the weekend to decorate your classroom, right? To knowing that on the bus or in the morning when you greet a kid, they aren't going to have enough food, right? So you went and you got something so that you could slide them a granola bar, right? There are things that I will never know, that your families will never even know, that you have done for our kids, our community, and your colleagues. And so from the bottom of my heart, and this team sitting here tonight, I extend my deep appreciation and know that you will be deeply, deeply missed. And thank you. And I'd like to ask the folks who are here to celebrate the retirees, if you'd please stand up and join me in a round of applause.
Thank you again for being here. I'm guessing that you don't want your next step to be celebrated with us at the board meeting, so I'll pause for a minute if you would like to sneak out of here, but you're certainly welcome to stay. No. I have that hair though. Oh, yes. I love that.
A couple people hadn't used their hairs.
Maybe just going to swoop in instead of like.
Okay, thank you for joining us here. Next up, we have a transitional services update. Adam Holm, Executive Director of Community Education, is with, and I apologize, I'm going to pronounce your name wrong, Kalia Bynum, Traditional Services Coordinator. Adam, maybe I need to just stop talking and you can introduce your team.
Good evening. We're very excited to have, we call her Coco Hartung with us, and Kim Braxton. This is our transitional team. and they're going to present a wonderful display of how we help kids every day.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mrs. Putnam, board members, and Assistant Supes. Thank you for having us. I'm here to talk about our recent progress with transitional services. This is Kim Braxton. This is her first year here with transitional services. She is a family advocate, and she also does the intake for our families.
The district homeless liaison plays a critical role in ensuring equitable access for all students, including those experiencing homelessness, by providing multiple points of contact throughout their educational journey. The liaison fosters strong connections between students, families, and the school district while collaborating with community partners to secure essential educational resources and support services. Through this coordination, the liaison advocates for the holistic needs of homeless students to be addressed in a timely and effective manner.
During our intake process and discussion, we talk about school placement, transportation arrangement, food, physical needs, academic needs, and MARS. The intake process with the community ensures the educational fully address the following intake coordinated planning tailored to support measures and also implemented to promote smooth school integration and also sustain academic progress despite housing instability or transitional circumstances. I had the data team run numbers for me today just to get an accurate number. As of today, we have 1,073 identified homeless students. Of that, as you see, 18 plus, 32 males and 51 females. Pre-K through 12th grade, 576, and also with our males, 497. And our community calls for district community, Stearns County and city, 20, and then our number of resources and supports. As the current data of the district, negotiable from McKinney-Vento is eligible for students who are identified as homeless, but also get to have the same opportunity in learning and their education to be successful.
Our students benefit greatly from clothing and essential items provided by the key partners listed above, helping ensure a confident and comfortable start to the school day. In addition, the district is supported by 16 community agencies that contribute valuable resources and services. We deeply appreciate the ongoing collaboration and commitment these partners bring to meeting the diverse needs of our students.
Thank you. And are there any questions?
Scott?
You mentioned MARS, M-A-R-S-S. What's that?
So we do the, did you have the MARS department there? Mars, he said Mars. Can you help him with Mars question?
That's the academic planning and how we count our students and our MARS data that we give to the state.
Okay. So MARS is data that you,
That all the schools use. Every student has a MARS number, and then we have data that we use that MARS data for. Then Donna can utilize it, or the whole district, but then the team can pull our MARS data to find the students.
okay, so each student has one of these accounts then?
Every student in the whole district has a MARS ID number.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned 1,073 homeless kids?
Correct.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
And we're about 9,500 in our district. That's a lot. Thank you.
Al?
You spoke on one of the slides. If you could back up to the slide that lists the services that you provide. Started with, I think, transportation. Yeah, school placement, transportation arrangements and stuff. First of all, when we talk about homeless students, when we say 1,073 homeless students within the district, those are students that we've worked with so far this year?
Correct.
And how long, we don't have 1,073 students today in our district who are homeless, who are have no home, right?
So it's categorized if they're a hotel, motel, doubled up.
But this is, it's transitional in the sense that they're moving through a period of homelessness, but they aren't necessarily, if we worked with them back in September, they aren't necessarily homeless today in our district. But so I guess I'm kind of wondering, when we say 1,073 students, what does that look like? And how long is a student who comes to transitional services and uses the services, how long are they typically homeless before they find stable housing?
Under the McKinney-Vento, there's no limit as far as like statute of length of homelessness. I mean, and so we have to do our follow through and criteria every July 1st of the year to ask students and their guardians their living arrangement. Some living arrangements change and some do not. Our unaccompanied youth, they could be couch hopping, they could be at 180, they could be at the youth shelter, which we had a lot of this year. But mainly during our intake process, we want to make the student feel comfortable, and we want to build a trusting relationship with them to best serve them. And when we talk about the living arrangement, that is a tricky one because they think of, am I going to get my parents in trouble, and where am I living? But every year we have questions that we have to ask in order to categorize them as homeless.
Okay, so how far, and so I would imagine that when we're working with students, some of them, if they're homeless, they're not in stable housing. So I would imagine there's a lot of moving around. How far, and we provide transportation to the homeless students, correct? And how far does that reach? How far do we reach with that? How far outside of our district would homeless students be living that we're transporting in, maybe is the question.
Under McKinney-Vento, we do district, like borderline district lines. In some cases, some kids are living out of state, and it's our job to make sure that that student, has no interruption. So we have to partner with different schools. We have to, well, me personally, I will contact their foster care, Krista Potter, and she will work on that end of things to make sure that student has the same access and transportation. For me, if a student is housed in Long Prairie and needs to be able to get to Discovery School, I need to contact Long Prairie's homeless liaison there, and we both come up with an agreement. Sometimes the district just pays the whole bill, and then on the other backside, they do their splitting.
The goal would be to keep them in a stable school setting, correct?
Correct.
So you don't want them moving from school to school to school. So how far, so again, my question was kind of how far does that reach for, like how far are we transporting students from outside our district to our district on a daily basis? I'm not looking for specifics so much as just.
Last year, we had a student that wanted to graduate from tech, and he got picked up every day in Glenwood. So we worked with a provider to Glenwood. This year it was Minneapolis for a while till we could make arrangements so that it was easier for them to transition to their new school. But it's whatever's in the best interest of the student and as far away as they live. But I know it's been Minneapolis this year, Glenwood last year were our farthest. And then we work very closely with Amy to work on the finance piece. And then we have to justify how is this in the best interest of the student? Why did we choose the vendor we did? Is it possible to get them on district buses? And in those two cases, it wasn't. So then we work with a third-party vendor.
So it's significant.
Yeah.
Significant distance. Let's see. You don't, I think, you know, Lori, you made some comments about education kind of being the, I don't know, being blamed for so much. And someone sent me an email just yesterday that I responded to. And it was a John Stossel video in which he was blaming education, and it was a piece aimed at open enrollment, and I'd even go as far as saying vouchers, and how if we could just get students out of these bad schools and into good schools, then we'd solve the education problem or the education challenges within America. And it's just so simple. All we have to do is get the kids into the right schools. And Stossel went so far as to say if we could get them out of these schools in these poor neighborhoods that are the decrepit schools that are falling apart in poor neighborhoods that have such poor results, and put them into better schools, we would solve the problems that exist in those schools. And to me, and I when I answered this person, he was a friend of mine, so I wasn't like, but I go back to 1,073 students are homeless within our school district. That's 10% of our school district. That's more than 10% of our school district is students who don't have a stable home. And I always, you know this, I always go back to Maslow's pyramid, or hierarchy of needs. And the first thing you got to have is you got to have a place to live. You got to feel safe. First you have to have your basic needs met. You have to have food and shelter, and then you have to feel safe, right? If you don't have one of those, if you don't have those things covered, you're not going to learn. You're in survival mode. Your instinct is to survive. Your instinct is not to learn. And it's only when you move past those two, then you get to the feeling of belonging. Well, now if I have a place to live and I know that I'm going to get food and I feel fairly safe, now I can feel, when I go to a school, I can feel as though I may belong in that school. That opens the door to maybe I can learn. Maybe I can turn on that learning thing. But it's not until I get up into the top two levels of the pyramid where I have that sense of love and belonging. And then you get into the self-actualization phase at the top. But those are the kids who come to school ready to learn. Those are the kids in the wealthy areas. They're at home. They feel safe. They have food. They have parents that care and are there for them. They do travel with their families. They see the world. They have experiences. They are ready to learn, and they come prepared to put the work in to learn. They're not in survival mode. Survival is taken care of for them. And when we have a group of 10% of our school district is homeless, doesn't have a place to live, that's not even taking care of level one. And then we have a whole lot of students who are living in poverty, in really bad family situations. They may be in level one or level two, but I would venture to say, and what I said to this person is that if you go to one of the districts that Stossel was talking about as a good district, it's probably 90% of those kids have all of their basic needs met, and they're going to school to learn. When you come to a, quote, poor school district, it may be 50% of the students who are either homeless or living in poverty or very near poverty, or are special education students, or they're new to country and have language barriers that makes learning at a proficient level very difficult. And it isn't schools, It's not the teachers. It's not bad teachers here and good teachers there. It's society. It's just the family structures. It's so many pieces of the puzzle that are broken. And it's just really frustrating to me that, yes, they turn around and they kick the school and they say the school's not doing enough. Kids are in school 6 to 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. They're at home 15 hours, 16 hours, 17 hours a day, and they're home 7 days a week. The problem isn't the schools. The schools are doing everything they can, and it's really difficult to take a kid who doesn't have a home and in 7 hours, 5 days a week, bring them from the very bottom of the pyramid where their basic needs haven't been met up to where they're in a position in life where they feel confident and can go in and learn. So it's a really frustrating piece to me. But the work that you guys do is amazing. It's needed. It's overwhelming. It's probably really frustrating at times. But I commend you for everything that you do. It's a really tough, difficult problem and a real challenge. And it's not just a challenge for the schools. It's a challenge for the schools, the cities, the counties, the states, and the federal government, and families themselves. That's it.
Yeah, I echo what Al said, that we're so thankful for both of you, Coco and Kim. I know it's more than a job for you. I know it's a calling, and I feel that, and I can only imagine what our families feel when we say we want a safe and caring climate in our district. This is what it's about. It shouldn't necessarily be our job, but that's not how we run things at 742, right? We are going to help. We're going to have a safe and caring climate, whatever that means for kids. And hearing that we have over 1,000 students, which isn't surprising because that's where we were last year as well. And then also reading yesterday that 60% of Americans cannot afford a minimal quality of life. That same 59% can't make it through $1,000 emergency. And I feel that, I've felt that in my own life. And so for our district to be able to have both of you and everybody else, right, that funnels folks to you, I wish it wasn't this way. And yet I'm so glad that there is somebody that, like you guys, that people can reach out to. And what I really admire so much about the role that you guys play is that it's not a one-off meeting and then you're hands off, right? It's like, what do you need? Let's wrap around as much as they need. And it's those partnerships that you have with our community, with the counties, with Catholic Charities, with whoever it is, getting all the resources we can for our families, not so they can, so we can not talk to them anymore, but so we can see the success not only in the students, but also in the parents. And there's a lot of tough things in this job, I'm sure, but there's also, for me, I just see I think of the individual wins that happen when a mom is able to, get shelter in a hotel for the 6 days before they can get into Anna Marie's. That's instead of being on the street. That's not what public schools are made to do, and yet that's what we're doing, and we'll continue to do it with all of the resources that Coco and Kim can muster. And so every day I'm thankful for you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've been really looking at that list of items up there on the screen. We talked about transportation arrangements. How do you make a school placement decision? How do you choose what school you put the kids in?
Thank you for the question. When a family comes in, if they were prior students, we'll see if they're still living at the same address. We'll ask them, are you still living here at this address? Or if they moved, we will see what school, the boundaries that they're living in. And if some families choose to have school of origin, we have to make that happen if their living arrangement has not changed. So we had some pre-K kiddos that was maybe 2 hours, 3 hours that they would have been on the bus. And so I would dispute that because, of the time they have to get up and then they're sleeping and eating. So we factor in a lot of that. And I think Shannon, I talked to you about a couple of high school kids. So the best interest is their well-being, their eating, their sleeping, everything that has the student be school ready for the day, but it also bases off their address, because we can't say no without just to say, hey, we can't do this. We have to make something work to keep to keep those barriers off the student, and we have to make sure that the parent also is involved.
So Scott, to make it clear, we partner with the parent to have the parent choose what's in the best interest of their child. We don't choose. We partner with the parent. Do they want to go back to their home school? Do they want to go to their new school? But the parent would always decide, except in extreme cases, and then we would partner with one of the assistant superintendents to help us work with the family to say this isn't in the best interest to ride 3 hours each way to school.
Okay, so if, say, a kid lived over by Talahi and at one time went to Westwood, he would still have the option of going back to Westwood then?
That's their school of origin, correct?
Okay. Food services. How do we go about feeding these kids that don't have a home?
So we have a couple of options. We partnered with Ruby's Pantry, was a great one. We also had Stearns County Bank donate to the school district $16,000 that we used for Aldi's, which was huge, and I was so happy about that. What we do, we have our list. We go down the list and we invite the students to the grocery store, and we talk to their guardian, and we ask them, are they in need of? That way, if we have to do a second cycle, we know who we serve, so everybody has a chance. So Ruby's Pantry, we do, it's a gift certificate. We have their name and ID number that's on the certificate, so they can't redeem it for cash. It has to be for the pantry. And then they can, if they need a ride there, we take them. And then most of the times we pick them up and we deliver the food to wherever they're living. And that took place on Thanksgiving holiday was our first one. We were here on the weekends. We stayed for about 5 to 6 hours on Saturday and Sunday. And then it was very important for Christmas. We came back right before our leave, and we stayed the weekend to best serve our students too. And this would be shelters or wherever they're living.
Okay, during COVID, we had food delivered by school buses. Does that apply anymore or not?
No, now we have a van. So we partnered with the district, and they wrote part of the grant. So we have money. We have a district van that these two can drive around if needed to bring the food to the families or to bring the student to an appointment. Otherwise, we have to use a third-party vendor to get the families to and from school or to and from the grocery store or Kohl's.
That sort of explains physical needs too, which I think was the next one on the list. You actually use the school van to make sure that they get where they have to be for medical or whatever. Okay, thank you.
Heather?
Can you talk a little bit, I mean, obviously we're getting to the end of the school year. What happens during the summer and what sort of services are available to students?
Now that we have a 12-month employee that year-round, after I think it would be May 30th is the last day, I will continue to serve. It's not as vast through the school year, but there are some that still need services. If it's hotel, motel, clothing, food, I still will continue to. And we document and we just take it from there. And then we also utilize our community partners, which is huge. And we also have a coordinated entry. They put them on the housing list and they work from the top to the bottom and do like low income housing Section 8 HRA to get them in housing and be supported. Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have the graduation and end-of-year celebrations. We have Dr. Jason Harris, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education, and Molly Kenzie, Tech High School Principal.
Good evening, Chair Haas, Superintendent Putnam, board members. You heard all the things that were going on, right? We heard our retirees that put in years of service to our community in public education. You just heard specifically transition housing, over 1,000 students that we service every day, and all the things that show up for our students and our families, and to your point, basic needs like food, clothing, and shelter. We have a high need. And so through all of that, we get to celebrate this, right? We have found ways to celebrate around achievement. Graduation is a big thing for our students and all the things that they overcome, not just in the sense of academics, they're social-emotional, learning how to work with one another, learning how to be on time, how to work with folks. And so we get the fun thing of specifically celebrating the end of the year, because when we set out in July to what the end of the year looks like, graduation is one of the biggest things for us, right? To show our kids are achieving at high levels or not high levels of how people look at it and what they measure in that. And I think this year we really found some ways to do that. And so in everything we do, we got a chance this past weekend, to say thank you to our community. Because of everything you talked about, it can't be done alone in education. Our community has to be there with us, and they showed up last Saturday. You all saw it. You all felt it from all programming. It was a great celebration. Passing of a new referendum, Superintendent of the Year. But to give back to the community, and we know it takes a collective effort. I got a chance, and I think I should have been doing some work. I would like actually, I had a task, but I was so amazed. I went through every station, everything, every booth, all the folks that were there. It was amazing just to see for our community. So shout out to all the folks that planned that. I sat in a few meetings and I was like, this is a lot going on, but to see the final product for your kids, they sang a song to the superintendent. Tell me we can't build our music programs if you didn't see the group of students that sang that song, and how it was a wide range of how the world should look in our classrooms. And the teacher was powerful. So shout out to yes, Ms. Cruz, and what you're doing, that's amazing. And so it starts there. And now do we continue this? We've had this conversation because this is a good way, right? And so just tonight, we're just going to partner and talk about what the students and families, how they celebrate the accomplishments. And a part of it is now a community celebration to graduation and all the things from all the levels. And I'll kind of talk about that starting tomorrow. Is that Friday? South's going to have their 8th grade celebration from 11:30 to 12:30. North does a 8th grade celebration May 30th, along with Kennedy at 8 a.m. So students that are finishing out that pre-K-8, right? That's a transition and getting ready to go to the next step of high school. And so those would be great celebrations for our folks. And then we got a chance to celebrate our alternative programs. Superintendent and I and Assistant Superintendent Avison all got a chance to see our 18 and 22-year-old students of CO2 with disabilities that still work through IEP. I knew a lot of the students. One student said, I've had you since middle school. And so just talking to the kids and the celebrations. Next week, we're going to have adult basic ed, and we know just for folks to go back and get their education. Those are non-traditional pathways, and so how do we celebrate them? Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm going to share our high school celebrations. It feels like they've already kicked off May 1st, and it has been busy ever since, so I'm excited to share with you. Going back to May 7th, our class of 2025 was able to partner and share a great experience at St. Cloud State University, honoring our Indigenous graduates. And so, as you can see, we had, I believe, 8 students from all secondary schools that were able to participate in this event. And similar to past experiences, there were the drummers and the quilts and the eagle feathers, and so it was really nice to just be able to sit in that moment with them and share that student and their family's success. McKinley's graduation kicks off our graduation ceremonies, and that'll be this Friday at 10 a.m. And so someone said it in one of our principal meetings, if you have not been to McKinley's graduation yet, where sometimes we ask audiences to be really quiet and get in that space, McKinley's is the opposite, and they really do celebrate and cheer and just generate that excitement of the great accomplishments for our students. On Friday, Apollo has a senior picnic coming up. And so this is where staff get to spend that period with them where they are grilling, and we'll just keep hoping for nice weather as the week ends here since we've had plenty of rain. But they really get to just spend that time together as a class and celebrate their success there. And so really just giving back to their community. I don't know that yet, but I will find out for you. Do you have that? I believe it's during the lunch period. I just don't know if it's A, B, or C. Okay.
I think also everybody has a calendar invite for all these events. I think Jan sent it out. And so, Scott, we'll make sure we get the time for the barbecue. Because I think I saw you there last year and we had a hot dog together and enjoyed some fun, right? It was hot.
At Tech, we host our annual activity day, and so we run a 2-hour early out schedule. So from 1:20 to 3:20, we have outdoor activities. So we close down most of the indoor of Tech, and we really get our group outside. And so we've got outdoor games, partnerships with law enforcement, the SWAT team shows up, some military rock wall and bikes. And so it's really fun to see our kids out there on tandem bikes, just trying new things, planting with the gardening club. There's karaoke and henna, and so feel free to stop by on Friday. But as I said, May seems to be really busy, so you'll be bouncing from event to event. Seniors' last day is also the 23rd, and so this is the day where we will collect all of their devices, we will hand out caps and gowns and their tickets, and so it came very, very quickly, but their last day wraps up in 2 days. The following Friday is when we kick off that rehearsal for the next day. And so at Rivers Edge Convention Center, we will ask that all students transport themselves to the convention center, and we will do the walkthrough of the commencement ceremony. So Tech has the early ceremony this year, and so our rehearsal is at 9 a.m. and Apollo's is at 11:30. The following day, May 31st, will be the day of both commencements. Tech starts at 11 with the doors opening at 10 a.m. Apollo's is at 3:30 and the doors will open at 2:30. We've been working diligently with our senior class in both buildings to go through how we just support getting all families and students there and in hopes that we've had that conversation early for a very successful event. Just a little bit about the ceremonies. It should last about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. There will be live music during the ceremony, so it'll be the band and the choir this year. There will be student featured speakers, as well as principal selected faculty member by our senior class, and then Dr. Putnam will speak as well. And then there's the awarding of the individual diplomas, and finally the presentation of the class of 2025. Some family information. Students are given 8 tickets per graduate, and like I said, those are distributed with their caps and gowns. Our ask is that immediately following that ceremony, we have lots of ushers and lots of adult support to get our families and students to meet outside of door A, because we have a bit of a quick turnaround to get the next ceremony ready and going. But the ceremony, as always, will be live streamed, and we will share that out through communications. In the past, we've done that through our Facebook pages and things like that as well. Additionally, to our tickets, we've added some language this year to just try to help support the event. And so to limit disruptions during the ceremony, families should plan to stay for the entire ceremony. So we've added that to the ticket, as well as letting families know once the event starts, if they choose to leave the building, they will not be allowed back in the building. And so that helps us with that line of guests that are waiting to just not create a little bit of chaos. We're going to try to really keep it organized and who's in the space. And so it's similar to all of our athletic events, right? Once you leave an event, you're not welcome back in. And so we will do our best to really communicate that as people are making those choices throughout the ceremony. And that is it. Any questions around graduation?
Okay.
Scott, we have 11 o'clock to 12:45 is the senior picnic.
On Friday.
There you go.
HOSA has root beer floats, so you just got to pick your event.
Al?
Last year, at one point, we had talked about combining for music, combining bands and having the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors that are in the bands play for both, so that we could have a little larger assembly. Is there anything happening with that, or?
There is not at this time, and so I think both bands, based on spacing, are fairly large with equipment, and so at this time we are not combining.
Okay, one more information item tonight. We have the 2025 Summer School Review presented by Nikki Hansen, Assistant Superintendent of E5 Learning, and Krista Potter, Director of Title Programs and Multilingual Student Services. Welcome.
There we go. All right, all the exciting things, and it's going to be summer in just a few weeks, right? So I'm just going to fill you in on what our plans are for the summer. We have several programs running, and we'll kind of just oversee what they are, and then you'll get some of those details. So here we go. So these are kind of the different categories and the language that we use when we talk about our programs. There's a lot happening all over our district. We have what's called extended school year, and that happens at all ages. We also have what's called K-5 targeted services. It includes our newcomer students. We have 6-7 targeted services, which also includes newcomer students. And then we also offer some secondary credit bearing opportunities as well as credit recovery. So extended school year, that is a program specifically designed for our students that have IEPs or individualized education programs. And they, in their IEP, it tells us that they need some additional summer programming, so we offer that. So these are the sites that they're going to be working at. Pre-K will be at Quarry View, elementary is going to be at Discovery, the middle and high school students for ESY will be at Apollo, and then we also offer some programming for our Journey students at Roosevelt. Targeted services, we offer at both K-5 and 6-7, and it's called targeted services because the way that we determine whether a student qualifies for this program is based on a targeted range. So if students need additional support or extra work toward working towards standards, they could qualify to come to these summer programs. And this year we're going to offer 3 different programs, and you can see the schools that will be clustered together for those different sessions. For our 6th and 7th graders, we are also offering 2 different sessions. And again, South Junior High students will be at one, and then North and Kennedy will combine during that session too. Credit recovery is happening at the ALC, which is wonderful. We have a lot of students that access this to not only work toward graduation, but also recover some lost credits. Here's our master plan of all the programs. You can see the colors on the right-hand side. Those are the programs I just talked about. And the colors go on the dates according to the calendar. So most of our programs will be running right away on June 9th, and we will be finishing several of them by the end of June with some extension into July for some of the other programs. These are the times that we'll be running the programs. Elementary will be early, just as they are now, and secondary a little bit later. This is to help accommodate the transportation, which is a very large feat, I'm finding. St. Cloud's big. Our goals this year, we're focusing on just continued increasing participation and opportunity. For elementary in particular, we adjusted our model. We had a mega site last year with multiple schools coming all at once, and we're trying to do more 2-week bursts that are kind of fun summer camps, but keeping them in the local schools. We got feedback from families that they feel more comfortable having their student attend a school that's a little bit closer to home. We'll continue to gather feedback from our staff, parents, and students from year to year so we can make those adjustments. And of course, prioritizing attendance and engagement and intentional connection points with families. We've really upped the amount of communication we've had with families already, and we will continue to do that so that they have the information that they need, which supports attendance and engagement. And then, of course, we have great plans for including some social emotional learning, as well as focuses in reading and math. Some of our partners are listed here. The United Way has been great. We're partnering with them to also partner with other organizations in town that offer enrichment opportunities, which is really unique for our students. A lot of the opportunities we're able to provide are things that they wouldn't normally get in the school year, which is engaging and exciting for them. We've got some art, we've got some great theater, we've got Taekwondo, several different things that kids get really excited about, students get excited about. The Yes Network is a great partner as well, and they help provide all of the meals for our summer programs, which is huge. We also have our own Grow Your Own Student, which are future educators. They're high schoolers that we have currently that are interested in being teachers. And so they get to go to SCSU and have a great week of learning and kind of learning the ropes of education. And then we also invite them into our summer classroom so that they can practice and be with students and be in the classroom as well. And then we do get some volunteers from Reading Corps that help support in our classrooms as well. And that is all I have. Are there any questions?
Scott?
You mentioned target programs. How do you get eligible for that? What's involved in being involved?
That's a great question. So the state outlines 11 different criteria that a student can qualify for that additional support. It could be many things from, students who are homeless to students who have a reading proficiency and they need some work with reading. Maybe they need some support in math, different things like that. So we look at all sorts of different kind of data points. And basically, if a student needs some extra support, we can fit them in.
Okay, and these are state requirements?
Yes.
And how many do you have to meet of them?
Just one.
1 out of 11?
Yes.
That should be doable.
Yes.
You mentioned social emotional learning. I hear that term all the time, but what is involved? What do you do when you're teaching social emotional stuff?
That's a great question. So particularly with young people and even, I would say middle schoolers as well, it's talking about kind of those character traits that make good interactions. How do you make friends? Like a kindergartner, we would teach them, how do you ask another friend to play with you? What's appropriate? You could do character traits of like, what does it mean to be kind? What does it mean to be generous? Different things like that. So we teach those social skills of interacting with your peers, what's appropriate, how to do that. We practice it. We also teach those skills of empathy and understanding and different things like that. They're not really a textbook thing, but they kind of are, because we need to teach students how to interact with one another and be successful, not only with their peers and their classmates, but out in the world.
Okay. You mentioned volunteers in a reading program. Is RSVP involved? Retired Senior Volunteer Program?
We don't currently have them serving in our summer program, but we would love to have them if they're interested in volunteering.
There's a gal named Tana down at the Senior Center that would be happy to provide you with lots of volunteers.
I will get her contact information. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
A special thank you for all the extra effort it takes to get the transportation figured out. So that's a huge barrier. It's a deal breaker for people if they don't have that. So thank you.
Yeah. Shout out to our transportation department. They're great.
Yeah, it's complex and I get how difficult it is, but oh so important. Thank you for joining us tonight. Okay, then we have our only action item tonight. We have the approval of lists of graduates for Apollo and Tech High School. Dr. Jason Harris presenting as our Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education.
Good evening again, Chair Haas, Superintendent Putnam, board members. You all have a list of the 24-25 graduates. You have Apollo's list. That list consists of 308 students. You have Tech's list that consists of 384 students that will met all the requirements for graduation through the state, the Department of Education. And so administration is going to look for approval to approve both of those lists for our students graduating May 31st. And so you just got a chance to hear Principal Kinsey just kind of talk about all the plans around that. And so our students, and we talk about graduation and in the sense of that's a big achievement for some of our students. And we now start to have the conversation that that's just the minimum for our students and how do we prepare them for the world, right? And so just happened to listen to a podcast around we need to rethink how we look at education. And so just this year, and Superintendent Putnam got a chance to lead the work around a Future 100, right, and the students, and having a plan when they walk across the stage. Just not that piece of paper, but what are you going to do, and it's an actionable item. And I think this year more than any other year, we had some celebrations. Last Thursday, I talked to Director Omar, and students could really articulate my plan, right? What I'm doing, where I'm going, and it all wasn't just going to a four-year university. It had a range from a four-year university, 2-year certification, students that wanted to take a gap year, students that wanted to go abroad and have an experience. And so when we look at this and just the list, that's just the minimum technical pieces, but we're preparing students for the world, right? And so I've been talking to the folks just recently, and students specifically, all the things that we just talked about around basic need, they show up every day. And some of the things, because of, they feel a sense of belonging. somebody cares, somebody asks, and our folks do a wonderful job, to the point, again, that we celebrate them today. So I think we've now started to move the needle, not just with I'm walking across the stage, but what I'm going to do with my life and how I'm going to do it, and if I found interest or not, and then just doing it in that way. So we're looking for approval for the list, but I just had to say that I've been talking to kids just in this time and just seeing it in amazement of our educators, our folks to show up. And it's all a testament to what you all do and approve, and to making sure that this happens. But this is a culminating event for 4 years, or pre-K-12, and it's big. And we're going to send over 700 students across the stage with futures and doing something that they want to find. So.
I would move that we approve the list of graduates for Apollo High School and for Tech High School as presented.
Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion by Al and a second by Zach. Scott?
Are the McKinley kids on these two lists?
Yeah, the students specifically that have a home school on Tech and Apollo, but we have students that didn't go to either one of those schools and just showed up, and that number's 57, because I asked and I talked to Bill, right? So it's over 700 students, and I think we're getting into a systematic approach of number, now who is it, and how we're helping. And so yes, it was 57, because I thought somebody asked, and thank you.
Well, I'm glad I asked. Thank you.
Heather, can you call a vote?
Natalie Copeland?
Yes.
Zach Dorhold?
Yes.
Heather Weems, yes. Scott Andreasen?
Yes.
Al Dahlgren?
Yes.
Shannon Haas?
Yes. Thank you. Then we have some policy readings. First, we have the proposed revised board policy 701, establishment and adoption of school district budget. This is the second reading. And Amy Scalarud, Executive Director of Finance and Business Services, is presenting.
Okay, good evening, Chair Hawes, Superintendent Putnam, members of the board. I will put this policy up on the screen. There are no changes since the first read for this policy. This is the policy that outlines the requirements to establish a school district budget. And as we reviewed it a few meetings ago, the only change was to reword some language that was a little bit wordy before, and then to add language about the authority to use fund balance to spend if projected expenditures exceed revenues on a limited temporary basis. Are there any questions on this policy?
Okay, we'll go with no on that one. So it's Amy has all three policy readings tonight. Next, we have the proposed revised board policy 721, uniform grant guidance policy regarding federal revenue sources, and this is a first reading.
Yes, and so this one does have a number of changes. Most of them are really, or almost all of them, coming directly from a change in the federal uniform grant guidance. That is guidance that is issued by the federal government that outlines procedures that we have to follow and rules around our spending of any federal funds. So the first change, and probably the only change that will really impact anything we do, is changing the dollar amounts in the procurement section. The first change won't impact how we do business. It's really just aligning with Minnesota statute. The federal limit to require a sealed bid is $250,000. However, in Minnesota, we have state statutes that are more restrictive than that. And so the threshold in Minnesota is $175,000. And so MSBA has recommended in their sample policy to lower that threshold in this policy so that districts aren't confused that that you can use the federal limit because it would violate state statute and wouldn't be allowed. So that's the reason for that change. And then in that same section, the one that will impact the way we do business and have a small impact on our government-wide statements when we get to audit time is the change in increasing the threshold to define equipment, which is currently set at $5,000. We use that same equipment threshold to determine when we add something as a fixed asset for audit purposes, which will be the next policy that we get to flow that change through to that policy. And so the federal guidance has changed that from 5 to 10,000. And so that one we will be updating as well. There's a small just wording cleanup in the conflicts of interest section. It used to say policy, but you could have more than one policy regarding conflicts of interest, so they've changed that to the plural version. And then this is the only change that I'll talk a little bit about that doesn't align with the MSBA policy. This section G, as it relates to procurement and selection of vendors, is outlined and included in the MSBA policy. It's also in the federal guidance. However, as we discussed at Finance Committee, in light of some of the new federal executive orders, there was some concern that this could potentially be contradictory to that. And it's not something we do in practice anyway, because of budgets being restrictive. We are always in the position to either take the low price or the best value. If it's a professional service where it's not always price, but there's some sort of evaluation of what's the best value for your money. We aren't doing this in all practicality. We're not awarding businesses based on who owns that business. And so the recommendation was just to remove that, since it really doesn't align with how we're selecting vendors and awarding contracts anyway. The next the next change, in addition to the federal guidance around cybersecurity, to add kind of some minimum thresholds and safeguards that districts have to provide assurances that they're covering as it relates to cybersecurity. We meet all of these and more. We are probably more prepared and have better protections and controls and insurance than a lot of school districts, both in the state and nationally. But that is a requirement now in the uniform guidance, and so that has been added to the policy as well. This and the next change in the internal control section is just some cleanup. The policy previously said be in compliance with, but it's guidance, not any sort of regulatory authoritative. So that's been changed to say align instead of comply. They've added the requirement to comply with the U.S. Constitution, which was never called out explicitly before, but has been added to the guidance. And then in those last two paragraphs, just some language cleanup in the MSBA policy. And then the last change, other than just some reference changes at the end, was another addition in the policy regarding mandatory disclosures. These are mandatory disclosures that every time we apply for a grant or do reporting or accept federal funds in our grant systems, that we're attesting to and certifying that we're meeting these required disclosures, but they've just added this into the actual policy as well. So those are the only changes. Again, at the very end in the legal references is just some cleanup of statute numbering and naming, just to get that accurate based on the MSBA policy. Are there any questions? It's a lot of changes, but really not a lot, right? It's very little that's going to change anything in terms of how we apply or do anything from a day-to-day basis.
Scott?
You went through just federal disclosures really quick. Could you?
Yeah, I can go back up to that.
Review that just a little bit so I understand it.
So it's basically just putting in the policy that the school district has to disclose anytime they have evidence of a violation of fraud or conflicts of interest. This is one of the mandatory disclosures that we attest to. There's also a requirement within that federal disclosure to post publicly how you can, if you're a member of the public who wants to report some sort of fraud or violation. And so if you've ever come in the front door here, there is actually a poster that has the number about who you report that to, posted on the board with our meeting minutes. And so that posting really is directly coming from this mandatory disclosure and requirement. They're just officially adding it into the uniform grant guidance. It was added to the disclosures in terms of what we sign off on and attest to in our grant applications a few years ago. So it's really not new. It's just taken the federal government a while to get that updated on their end, and then for MSBA to get that updated in their policy.
Okay. Then we have last one. We have proposed revised board policy 704, development and maintenance of an inventory of fixed assets and a fixed asset accounting system, first read.
And so this change is directly driven from the changes in the uniform grant guidance policy that we just went through. And really that only changes to update that equipment threshold from 5,000 to 10,000 that we'll use to identify whether something is capitalized for audit purposes for financial statements. You will see in this policy that there's an effective date on that change as it relates to this policy. And the reason for that is so that we don't have to go back into our system and dispose of everything that has been added up to this point that's between $5,000 and $10,000. That would be a time-consuming task. It would require a change or a prior period adjustment on our financial statements, just a whole lot of things we don't want to do. And so it will keep within our accounting and auditing reporting anything that we've added in the past that was under 10,000, but we'll use that 10,000 going forward starting with this fiscal year. So that is the only change to that policy. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Next up, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Lori Putnam.
Thank you, Chair Haas, members of the board, team here, and folks listening from home. Tonight, I'm going to use the same framework as our assistant superintendents when they present their school's updates. So I'm going to start off with safety, our core, the core things that we focus on here in the district. We are really excited to share that Matt Sherry, who currently serves as a school resource officer at Apollo High School, has been named as the district safety coordinator for us. This new role is funded through our Department of Justice school safety grant, and it is part of our broader strategy to enhance district-wide safety practices. Matt, as you likely know, brings extensive law enforcement experience, a strong background in criminal justice, and a deep familiarity with our schools to this position, and we are thrilled to have his expertise guiding and strengthening our school safety systems across all buildings. His leadership will expand our capacity to prevent, respond to, and recover from safety-related situations while continuing to build positive relationships with students, families, and staff. For belonging, I'm going to continue with the St. Cloud Police Department and share that we're glad to welcome Laker. He is a 2-year-old golden lab who is the SCPD therapy dog who comes to work now with SRO Janelle Hawes, and they are located at Catherine Johnson. And I was out visiting schools and fortunate enough to be at Catherine Johnson this weekend to get to spend some good time with Laker. And students they've already had to put in some really good structures and boundaries because our students are very, very eager to visit with Laker. And it's not only is it a calming opportunity, but it's also a rewarding opportunity. And so the students there have just been delighted to have him. In terms of collaboration, we are grateful for the opportunity to be we're at the Granite Partners Trade Show today. Dr. Harris, principals Kenzie and Scholarud, and students from both DECA, HOSA, HOSA, I think I'm saying that right, and the culinary arts programs joined us, and so it was really fun to be at that. This was our first year. It is an invitation-only trade show, and so I'm really grateful to Brian Myers, who's been a great partner to us through the referendum, along with Rick and Shelley Bowerly, who own Granite Partners, for including us. And it was a great opportunity to be able to connect and continue making inroads with our business community, because we are an essential, and I think we're still the third largest employer, right, in this area, and so really grateful that we get to be in that. And then I also, in terms of excellence, we get to appreciate our retirees, but I also want to recognize our cabinet colleagues, Adam Holm, who is leaving us to go be superintendent in McRae, and Gary Ganji, who is retiring. This is their last board meeting, so we will not see either of them. And Gary, have you counted up the number of board meetings? You haven't? I really thought you would know for us. They both have been incredible assets to this district and this community, and I won't say much more because I will cry, but I will miss them both dearly and appreciate everything that you have done for us over the years, so thank you.
Okay, last up we have two more things. We have the Board of Education Standing Committee reports. I believe we only have one tonight. Board Finance and Audit Committee Chair Heather Weems. Are you doing your achievement? Okay, so we'll have two. Go ahead.
All right. The Board Finance Committee met on May 12th, 2025. We reviewed Board Policy number 802. Amy reviewed this policy, which relates to the disposition of obsolete equipment and material. The main change is to increase the threshold where bids are required to $175,000 in accordance with state statute. There was also a change in the MSBA policy regarding exceptions for surplus computers. A suggestion was made to remove one of the exceptions, and committee members agreed. These revisions will go to the Board Development Committee at their next meeting and then to the school board in June. We also had a city special assessments update. Amy reported that the special assessments from the city of St. Cloud that we thought would be in next year's budget will actually be in this year's budget because we received the invoices already. The cost is approximately $150,000 and will be included in the revised budget. There will also be additional city of St. Cloud special assessments that will be paid out of the 2025-26 budget of about $200,000, which will be included in the budget as a spend down of fund balance. And that's the report.
Thank you. And then Natalie Copeland will be presenting Achievement, Integration, and Equity Committee report.
Yes, thank you, Chair Haas. We met last week. Donna Roper shared information on the 2024 graduation data. Increasing trends can be seen. And as you heard Dr. Harris talk about it, many new efforts were started in the 24-25 school year. And then next month, we are talking about discipline data.
Thank you. And then last up tonight, we have future agenda items. The June 4th, 2025 board meeting topics will include approval of executive contracts, the preliminary 2025-2026 budget presentation, and some policy readings. At this time, does any board member wish to suggest a future agenda item? Okay. Thank you. So looking for a motion to adjourn tonight's board meeting. I have a motion by Scott, a second by Natalie. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned at 7:57 p.m. Thank you for watching. Have a good night. We'll be back June 4th. Nail that down.